Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Josh Burnett. I want to welcome you back to the Celebrate Columbus show. I'm so excited to be back with you. We've taken quite a bit of a break. Really in 2019, things got pretty crazy when I ran for city council and just couldn't put the time and effort into it that I wanted to. And then 2020 has really been a busy year with my work with BCSC, and hopefully you've been enjoying a lot of those videos. But after some recent events, COVID-19, the election cycle, as well as just, being isolated from friends, family, the community, felt like that was important to come back and try to bring people together. I know Celebrate Columbus is a project that helps me look at the good in our community and in our world. And I hope that it does the same for you. On this episode, Back Together, we're going to talk with Rick Weinheimer. He's been a guest on the show before, and many of you know him from his time as a Columbus North cross-country running coach and also English teacher. I'm excited to talk with him to talk about how to celebrate in spite of our circumstances. Hope you enjoy this episode of the Celebrate Columbus show. So, Coach, 2020 has been a strange year, to say the least. A global pandemic, a presidential election, and divided country because of it. And because of COVID-19, many of us have been isolated from our families, jobs, and friends. As you look back at 2020, how have you dealt with everything, and what would you say to others who have had a tough year?
Well, I appreciate that question. I just want clearly for you to know that this has been a roller coaster for me too. And I might have some thoughts on looking back on it, a perspective, but it's been a roller coaster. I've had bad days, I've had bad weeks. I get that. It was a unique year. I think my thought is what I'd like people to do is take a deep breath and maybe be less self-judgmental on this year. It was its own unique set of circumstances. And by that, here's a quick example. But on my social media, I have a lot of friends who are teachers. And some of them have been posting this. I wrote this down. And it says, don't think that this year, it says, don't let this year convince you that you're not a good teacher. And I thought a lot about that because I think teachers feel that way. They're scrambling every day and they're not quite sure the right thing to do. And they're trying to connect with kids. And it's not the way that they're trained in their hearts to connect. And so they think, okay, don't let this year convince you you're not a good teacher. But that's not how I see it. I see some of the best teaching being done ever, that teachers have risen to the occasion and they're doing the best teaching I've ever seen. And once a week, I get to go hang out with my second grade granddaughter, Grace. And I just watch what her teacher's done to put her in position to learn. And I watch how Grace would much rather be at school, but she's learned how to do things on her own. And when she has a question, she knows how to go back and look at resources and think about that. And she's only 7 years old and she's learning how to problem solve. And her teacher has taught her that without necessarily realizing it. And so I want to say not to just teachers who are being pretty judgmental, but you could fill in the blank for the occupation. Don't let this year make you feel that you're not good at blank. But you know what? There's a lot of really good that's been done, good in terms of occupations, good in terms of relationships. And so I try for myself when I go through this kind of down periods is to think, okay, different perspective, different year, be a little bit less self-judgmental and realize that, a year from now, 2 years from now, we look back, we may realize some really good things about what we've done and been able to do in that process. And so, I'm really proud of how people have handled it in lots of different ways.
That's so true, Coach. And I appreciate you bringing up, our teachers. I know with you being a teacher and coach for so many years, you think about them, it has been a roller coaster, being in person, online, a little bit of both. And so shout out to all the teachers out there.
And I want to say too, a deep breath, in every occupation, you can't make everybody happy. But, I've had some times this year, just because of what the year's been like, nobody could make me happy. And so sometimes also maybe be a little self-judgmental for the people that are unhappy. It's just been tough, and we all go through ups and downs. And so to cut each other a little bit of a break, but certainly also cut ourselves a break, I think is important in looking back on all this.
Yeah, that's a great point. One of the things I remember hearing you say this year on a Facebook Live video is that we can either look at what COVID-19 has taken from us or what it has given us. Could you explain a little bit of what you meant by that?
Yeah, thanks to my dad, who had a lot of quiet stubbornness to him, and I inherited a little bit of that. But at some point, there's so many things we didn't know how long, and still don't know. How long is it going to last? How's it going to end? How are we going to deal with it? Who are we going to lose in this process? What grief are we going to have? And that was overwhelming. And so at some point, I just got stubborn, like my dad would have, and said, "I'm going to come out of this a better person." I don't know what's going to happen, but I can control that part of it. And so I think if you can take a deep breath and take a look, and this is a good time of year to do that, that things have happened. We've all gotten a different perspective of life. I think it's helped all of us see what's truly important to us, maybe versus what we spend a lot of our time doing. And I think every time we get a different perspective, that's a good thing. And so there are things it took away. There's specific things it took away. A big one for us is Amy and I had been planning for a couple of years to celebrate our 20th anniversary by taking the whole family to Disney World. And man, there was so much planning and so many logistics and all those things. And that was going to be in July. And then, obviously didn't happen. So it took that away from us, that celebration. But what it gave to me, though, was a little better perspective on, okay, rather than, as I see that trip, as we try to do it sometime in the future, not focusing on all the logistics, all the details, make things perfect. We got a dinner reservation at the perfect time. Think instead about, my granddaughters and the joy they're gonna feel at seeing those things and experiencing those things. Think about wherever we eat dinner, even if it's, we have to buy sandwiches and sit on a lawn someplace instead of a restaurant, just a chance to be together. And so I think it's taken away some things that make our life typical or normal, but it's also given us some hidden gifts in there. And I think if we take a chance to reflect, we'll see some of those hidden gifts.
Yeah, I know for me, Coach, we've talked about this together. 2019 was a very busy year for me, basically away from my family all the time. And, at the end of that season, there was a time of accepting and grieving the results of an election that I tried to run for and trying to move forward. And so, I remember that point. And then also with COVID-19, you feel like something's been taken away or you don't have something, but because of the losses or because of COVID-19, it also gave me more time with my family.
Yep.
It gave me an opportunity to really pour my heart and soul into work at the school corporation, or, that opportunity to focus, like you just said, on what truly matters. Because at the end of our lives, those things on the, those extras that really, and I know that some of them, they're seriously like very important to us. But for me, my family is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And so it's really given me an opportunity to get some of that time back. I appreciate your perspective on that.
Yeah, it's been a narrowing down, and certainly we've all gotten maybe more of a chance to be thoughtful and to reflect. And life is so fast that it's also nice to have some reflection time. And I've discovered some things about myself I'd like them to be better, that I may have just gone on ignoring for a long time if I could have kept busy and ignored them. So that's been a blessing for me.
Well, something that we got to do together, Coach, which was new for me, and I've always called you Coach, but I got to actually have you as my personal coach as a part of your business. And I felt like during our work together, and I wanted to share to other people that, it helped me get through the pandemic because, during our conversations weekly, we were focusing on everyday priorities. Could you, explain what this exercise is meant to do, and how you could see that maybe helping someone who's watching or listening to this?
Yeah. And I think I want to thank the NBA because they've helped give me an analogy for this. But originally, I was kind of working on the theory of what I call purpose on a page. Take all the things we do in life, but narrow down the 3 or 4 that are most important to us and bring focus to those first and foremost every day. And then we can fill in our time with all the other stuff. But I love how the NBA did it, the whole bubble mentality. The
Mm.
only way that league was going to work this year, and it's been proven by the other leagues that aren't doing it, is if they made basketball a priority, which is how they made their livelihood, and they all got down there and they separated themselves from all those other things. And so I'm certainly not meaning to suggest that basketball should be everyone's number priority, but I am saying once you find those, you need a bubble mentality now. Now that we recognize that, we want those things to grow and those things to exist and happen. And so there's a lot of stuff we want to weed out of that bubble, things that take up our time, people that are not healthy for us, um, lack of time to reflect on what's important, and that's what the NBA bubble did. They put the most important things in there. And if people are getting nostalgic as we get toward New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and resolutions and all that, you might think about, okay, if you've got a bubble, what are the few most important things that go in there with you? And that's kind of what you and I talked about, I think, is how do we narrow down those most important things? And you did a cool job picking your few, and you've now spent a whole number of months with that as your focus. And yes, you do a lot of other things too, but you feel fulfilled, and your life work is valuable because you're paying attention to those things that are most important to you.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I know that regardless of if it was a tough or an easy day, I know that it was a great day if I was able to work through those priorities for myself. And yeah, and I really appreciate that. And hopefully other people can, learn from that bubble mentality that you talked about. And, I know we're going to need to really use that continuing to move forward. Well, you and I have talked about celebrating before, both, as a guest on this show and in private. And, this is just me reflecting with you. I feel like one of the things that the show did really well, this is our first episode back. One of the things we did well was celebrate other people, businesses, nonprofits. But one of the things that we can do a lot better job at is helping other people get better at celebrating. The point is to not, focus on, just the host or the guest, but, it's meant to really, you know, have a type of mentality or a state of mind or a movement to, finding the good in things and celebrating, that place when we try it out for the first time, and, hopefully connecting other people as well. How do we do that in times like these, though, or in spite of difficult circumstances? Because one of the things that we all share in common as a society and as a community is struggles. How do we do that? How do we celebrate, Coach?
I think I think there are a couple reasons why people tend not to celebrate. I think certainly we can be overwhelmed by the busyness of life. I think sometimes we can be overwhelmed by the negativity of life, and that's legitimate things that happen in our lives, but also, what are we reading? What are we watching? What are we hearing from other people? And that can become kind of overwhelming. I think some people, I was certainly like this. I always had a little bit of fear of celebrating because I wasn't necessarily sure I deserved it. And so if I celebrated something, did that mean, okay, I'm tempting God or fate or karma or whatever your higher power is to take it out on me? That's why I spent, 60 years of my life knocking on wood every time I said something good. So like somehow that superstition was going to make it better. But over the last couple of years, I've come to more peace, starting with gratitude. I think it's hard to separate celebrating from gratitude. And wise people, way wiser than I am. One of the guys I love is a research scientist named Sean Aker, and he is probably the foremost scientist on happiness. And his theory is that expressing gratitude is the single biggest step toward feeling happy with your life.
Wow.
And I think that's hard for us because we get overwhelmed by all those things. And so I thought a lot about that. And almost 2 years ago, I started keeping a gratitude journal every night. And I felt like a real dork, to be honest with you. 6-year-old man writing his little journal every night. And it just wasn't who I was. But I've done that. And now I thought I'll just do that for a month and see how that goes. But actually, I think it helped me process so that each day I would recognize more and more things and think, oh, I need to put that in my gratitude journal. Well, I think that ties exactly into celebrating. The joys of life are meant to be celebrated. That we are meant to feel joy. Feeling joy about things that happen in life is expressing gratitude toward good things, toward happy things. And so I think sometimes we're reluctant to hold back. When a joyful moment comes, absolutely celebrate and share. And that's why I love what you're getting back to doing now with the show. Is it's a gift to people to remind them it's not only okay to celebrate. I think life wants us to celebrate those great moments, and it ties to recognizing gratitude. And it's a developed skill, but I think the more you recognize what you're grateful for, and the more you celebrate the joys in life, the quicker all those other things kind of weed themselves out. They leave your bubble. So all that negativity and all that, kind of being focused on the tough things that happen, weed out of your bubble, and your bubble becomes filled with more gratitude and celebration. And then it just grows and grows and grows.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. And I hope that will help all of us as we think about, being grateful, and then, in turn, because of that gratitude, sharing it. And, you don't have to have a huge party, but you can at least celebrate with people in your life or whoever, however you do that.
I think I want to emphasize that, Josh. Stop you for a second, because that was super. Yes, and sharing it. And there's a little difference between bragging or humble bragging on social media versus sharing something important that's happened, some joy you have with people that you love. And I used to be kind of like that, because I thought anytime you share a joyful thing, it feels like maybe it's not humble. Mm-hmm. And then I saw a thing from, I think it might have been Sean Aker, who said, but when you share something joyful that's joyful to you, you're giving a gift to the other person, because you're letting them celebrate it also. You're letting them feel part of that joy. And that really changed. And I shared that kind of with my kids, and one of our kids called to tell me a few weeks later that she'd gotten a promotion. And she said, I might not have told you that before, because it doesn't feel humble to say, hey, look, I got a promotion, but I'm really proud of it. And I want to share it with you as a gift so you can feel that joy with me. So please remember those joyful celebration moments. Share them with people that can rejoice with you. We need that.
Yeah, especially, during these times of physical or social distancing, one of the ways that we can come together is by celebrating with each other, so that we can have that, both of us have that joy, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, maybe we can model that, Coach, and I'm gonna start with you, okay?
Okay.
Let's model this in a real life situation. As you look back on 2020, what's something that you'll start, and then I'll go next, that we can celebrate together?
Okay, I'm gonna steal something from you. I'm gonna kind of flip this, because you and I have been working together and for a long time. But for those of you that are watching this, my athletic background was as a runner, and in running and in coaching runners. Josh's background was in what I would call skill sports, where you need skills to be able to do them. But his intrigue was, could I get onto this running thing? I've never particularly enjoyed it, and I always had coaches who made it seem like it wasn't fun. Right. Could I enjoy this? And so Josh decided he wanted to try being a distance runner for a little bit. And it was going to be a huge challenge because it was not in his inherent nature. It's not how he'd been grown up with. And yes, he could. And I remember the day we got him to run a whole mile without stopping. And the next thing I know, he had set a challenge for himself to try to run 100 days in a row. And I remember one time he said to me, he said, I've gotten up to 5K. Do you think I could run a 5K every day? And in my limited brain, I thought, no, there's no way you can do that. So anyway, but anyway, Josh had that really out of character experience. And it wasn't important that it was running. It was important that he tried something that was a huge challenge and he showed himself that he could do that. Back to the question he asked me. So at the same time, I hadn't been running for a long time and running was in my background. And I kind of felt guilty that here Josh was taking such a leap out of his comfort zone to try this, that I needed to start running again. And so if somebody says, what'd you get out of 2020? Not what you lose, but what you gain. Well, I got my life back as a runner, and I didn't see that coming. And in January and February, I hadn't run for a long time. And I started because Josh started, and I thought I better set a better example than I'm setting. And now it's become an everyday thing. This Thursday, I will have run 200 days in a row. And over that time, I will have averaged more than a 5K for each day for 200 days. And none of that did I think was possible. And that's the joy, the celebration of having someone else to be accountable for and someone to share these things with. So as I enjoyed Josh's joy in finding out about himself, it gave me an opportunity to find it within myself. And so my 2020 that I'm thrilled at for me is I'm back to feeling like I'm a runner again, like my background was. And so thank you for giving me the chance to share that, but also thank you for being such a catalyst in making it happen for me.
Man, that is so awesome. I know I'll start by thinking, wow, that's just so great, Coach, that like you said, COVID-19 has taken many things away from us, but it's given you an opportunity to be the runner that you are. And that's so amazing. I know the number one possession that I've received this year is my 100-day pencil, for sure. And I have it right by my bed, and it is something that makes me so proud. I'm gonna celebrate some students that I've had the opportunity to work with. So obviously with COVID-19, there's been so many challenges for, in our world, Coach, you've been in the educational world, and I'm now in that, and just seeing all the struggles of, families, students, teachers, administrators, support staff, everyone. I was really wrecked by the fact that many seniors are going to be playing sports this year, maybe for the last time, and family members weren't going to be able to watch that because of, understandably, seating capacity issues.
No spectators. Yep.
Thankfully, because of some amazing local businesses and our school corporations supporting the efforts to live stream sports, we now have, I think it's 12, and it could be more because I just had some additional volunteers that are now helping me. We've got this ragtag team of people that are live streaming sports. And I just want to celebrate them because these students, are sophomores, juniors, seniors, and their work ethic and their commitment to sharing an activity that they're not participating on a court, but they're allowing, people from all around the community, all around the United States, all around the world to watch. I heard last night, we're recording this on a Tuesday, but last night at a school board meeting, someone was in, several states over that got to watch their grandkid for the first time. And so I want to celebrate those students who are making some memories for themselves and getting some good experience, but also the memories and the moments that they're giving to our families and the community that they otherwise wouldn't have. So And, let's encourage, those folks who are watching or listening to this to, think about your year. There's been some ups, there's been some downs and everywhere in between, but what can you celebrate that, maybe if it wasn't for COVID-19, or if it wasn't for a person in your life, or if it wasn't for something, you wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to X. And I would love to celebrate with you. I know Coach would too. So in the comments, if you would please, you're not bragging, you're sharing a celebration. And that's the type of community I'd like to create on this page. So please, I'm going to read every single one. Comment a celebration that you have from this year. Anything you want to add to that, Coach?
Yeah, I just want to say, and if you share that's a gift. We get to share your celebration with you, and that's a gift to us. And maybe I'm having a struggling day, and I just need to experience someone else's celebration to help get me going again. I think about those kids and remember the question that started with that those things never would have happened if it hadn't been for COVID. We wouldn't be streaming those, and it wouldn't have affected those kids' lives and their parents' lives. It wouldn't have affected the players, who all get a greater audience than they would have had. And it wouldn't have affected, a grandparent in Ohio who gets a chance to see those things. And so, yeah, there have been rough things that have happened to everybody this year. Absolutely. But there have been some real celebrations to appreciate also. That was a great question, Josh. Thanks for sharing that.
Great. Well, as we look at 2021, Coach, which is just around the corner, I think about, you're a planner, I'm a planner. We're thinking about our new year, and I'm sure that several people who are watching and listening are thinking about, this next year. And, one of their goals, they would love to, finally complete the goal of, kicking out COVID-19 from our lives for sure. We'd all like to have that happen for our New Year's resolution. But, how can we help prepare people so that at the end of next year, we can celebrate together? I'd like to make this an annual thing, whether or not, you and I get to do it in this way. I'd like to make it something that we could do on Celebrate Columbus to celebrate the year, regardless of the ups and downs that might arise throughout the year. How can we do that, Coach?
I think time to reflect, bounce those ideas off people. What do we have to celebrate? I think it would be as you're doing a Zoom call with family, if that's how you're celebrating the holidays, ask that question. What does each person have to celebrate this year? Christmas is going to be different for us, like it is for almost everybody else. We thought we'd have everybody. We're not going to have them. We're going to be doing some Christmas morning on Zoom. But, we can either focus on what we don't have from that, or we can talk about what can we celebrate together? What gifts have we gotten? And so absolutely, the idea of celebrating and feeling gratitude and feeling joyful for things is an acquired skill. The more we practice it, the better we get at it. And I can state that as a noted negative person for a lot of the first part of my life. The more you practice those skills, the more they can grow. And so I think being aware, being willing to share, giving us some comments so we all get a chance to share in what we've done will help get us headed right way in 2021.
Perfect. Well, Coach, I really appreciate your time, and just to be able to share a conversation with you, and always learn something each time we talk. If people would like to learn more about you or stay in contact with what you're up to, where should they go?
RickWeinheimer.com is my website. I love the background for this business I have that's called Everyday Excellence, is that I loved being a teacher and a coach, and every day it was built into your world. You could make a difference in people's lives. And then I retired, and I knew I still needed to find an outlet. And so, anybody that wants to have conversation about, or if I could help you individually or help your employees, in lots of different forms, an individual conversation or talking with a group, I just want to help make a difference with people. And so I appreciate that, Josh. And I know that we're all hopeful as we head into the future, but it's still a little bit uncertain. If I can help people work through that uncertainty, I'd be glad to do that. And if I can add one more thing, this might be anticipating your last question,
Yeah.
but I'm cheating on that. I guess I think about some people that might have watched, and they might think, my world is just too negative. I can't change it. I don't disagree with what you're saying, Josh. I want to celebrate. I can't change it. Quick story. Last February, I got an email from a gentleman, and he said, last night I was talking to my wife, and I said, I think my negativity is killing me. And his wife said back to him, I think your negativity is also killing your family.
Wow.
And he sent me an email. I got teary, and he said, can you help me? I'm so negative. I can't get out of this. And it was little by little and step by step. And it's called neuroplasticity. Your brain literally changes the way that it processes information if you're willing to work toward that something more positive over a period of time. And that gentleman has worked very, very hard now for almost 10 months. And his life is very different. It's not like everything goes perfectly for him, but his perspective and how he thinks about things is very different. And we got off the phone earlier today, and he's just excited about his marriage and his little boy and job opportunities. And so if you're thinking you're at a point where you can't get there, you can get there. You can get there. You can change. We can change the way our brains think to be more aware of gratitude and joy, and that brings happiness with it. And so we all are on a journey. We're all on a journey, but we can help each other get there.
That is so good, Coach. And so I guess the question that I had coming up, and maybe you looked ahead of the notes, is that the person you would like to celebrate?
So I'm feeling really happy for that gentleman today. And I know that life will continue to have its ups and downs, but and he's brought a lot of his joy to my life by those celebrations. So can we help each other out in those ways?
Very cool. Well, for those of you who have hung in with us and watched or listened to this conversation, and we'd like to ask you that same question. Who's someone that you can celebrate? Who's, whether it's a person in your life, it's a business, it's a nonprofit, it's, something in the community that you'd like to celebrate. You can do that in the comments, but because of the season we're in, you might want to do that through a Zoom call to someone, or maybe send a letter or a text message, a phone call. Don't go a day without celebrating. There's an opportunity each day to celebrate someone, something, someplace. And as Coach talked about, it might not be something that you feel natural at. And I know for most of my life, my nickname has been Turtle by different people. That doesn't mean that I'm very fast. That means that I'm slow. But, with the help and encouragement of someone like Coach, I was able to run over 100 days in a row. And that's something to be proud of. But then, there are people, there are businesses that need encouragement right now more than ever. So don't go another day without celebrating. And there's always something to celebrate because we're alive and we're in this together. Appreciate you guys watching this episode of Celebrate Columbus.